This is a 9,000 mile, 15,000 kilometer review of the KTM 1090 Adventure R. The comments and opinions in this video are my own, based on my experience with the product. I was not paid by any manufacturer or retail outlet to make this video. I purchased this product with my own money. I chose this product using my experience based on my own research. Please do your own research. I am not a professional reviewer or journalist. All right, so we've come up on the 9,000 mile service, which I just completed, 15,000 kilometer for you metric folks. And that's kind of just another milestone of maintenance. It's the halfway point to the first major service at 18,000 miles, or how many ever kilometers that is. Also, what I see is, even back when I was looking at 990s, most of these adventure bikes are somewhere around the 9,000 to 12,000 mile mark in the used market, so it's kind of throwing that in there too. Mileage wise, we've gotten up to the point where a lot of these used bikes, even a few years old, even some of the 990s you can find with 9,000 to 12,000 miles on them. So jumping right into the used bike thought process or review process, this bike has been very reliable. Now, right now this bike is only just under a year old to me. I purchased it as a holdover. So the bike is a 2018, I purchased it in 2019. But mileage wise, we're at that point, like I said. It has been very reliable. I don't know over a long period of years what will break down, over that course of that time, but in this duration, I've not had anything but some problematic ECU issues with throwing weird, odd codes, and that has really ceased. I haven't had anything really come up other than a loose light bulb causing a code, and I just popped the front off and made sure that the connections were all tightened up. But as far as issues with this bike, I have not had a single one that would cause me any concern. So who is this bike for? This bike is the bare bones model. It's lower CCs, lower horsepower, less electronics, and a little bit lighter weight than the 1290. It is a very off-road orientated bike. If you are going to purchase this based on looks, or based on you want to have a cool bike to ride the streets on, I'm not certain that you're going to be happy. It is very street capable. However, there's other bikes out there that afford better road comfort. I won't get into those. You can pick whatever one you want by whatever manufacturer. I'm sure I'll forget one, and someone will bang away on their keyboard. However, I would not suggest this for a daily commuter, for someone who is going to maybe go 2% of the time on gravel roads, mostly ride this as a touring bike. I would not. To me, the suspension, the way the motor's set up, the way that just the bike itself was meant to be ridden off-road. Pavement, and it's a venture bike. You ride pavement to get to your dirt places, and that's what I bought this for, is to go 2 miles from here and then get on some dirt, or ride 600 miles from here and get on some dirt. But like I said, it's very capable on road, but you'll be much more comfortable on a different bike. However, the person that this is for is someone who exactly wants to do some traveling and get off road and have something that is very dirt bike-like, and someone that enjoys the minimalist type of motorcycle, has a minimalist mindset. Now, minimalist these days is very subjective. you still have fuel injection, you still have a few driving modes, and you know, traction control, ABS. You just can't get away from that today. You can turn those off. However, when you cycle the key, they're going to go back to the standard setting, whatever that was. If you had it on off-road or road, if you turn everything off, you turn the key off, it's going to reset. But this is for someone that is maybe not mileage-wise, but has a 80 to 90% mentality of riding on the road, the purpose for your bike to do, whether how many ever miles you ride on pavement, your mindset is you want to ride this thing off-road. So off-road, this thing handles spectacularly. I mean, it's better than anything I've ridden. It is set up to go. I mean, you don't have to buy another suspension for it. There's maybe a couple of tweaks that I would do. Right now I've still got the stock sprockets on it. I would probably change those, go one down in the front and a couple up in the back. But as it comes out of the off the shop floor, I think probably the only thing you really need to do is put a skid plate on it and a set of good hand guards. Now, as far as maintenance-wise goes, it's a fairly long maintenance cycle. I do mid-maintenance cycle oil changes and air filter changes. I live in the desert. It's pretty rough conditions as far as motors go, so I service the air filter and do an oil service on it at 4,500 miles. Just because I don't want a dirt bike to go 10,000 miles or 9,000 miles without servicing it. So if you're frugal or have a low budget, this is probably not the bike for you, just maintenance wise. For me to do the oil service on this, it's about $120. You can buy the kit for 120 bucks. And that's on sale. I mean, I think the KTM kit for this is probably somewhere up in the $150, $160 range. Now, you don't have to replace it. It comes with screens, O-rings, a cartridge filter, paper cartridge filter for oil, and 4 quarts of oil. Now, personally, I wouldn't put 1040 in here. I know you hear I put Mobile One or whatever, but you're not finding those viscosities like you do with a Motor X. You might as well just buy the Motor X and get it over with, and put the correct oil in there. As far as the strainers go, or the screens, really service-wise, you can, and I think it even says in the manual, you can just take them out, clean them with contact cleaner, check the O-rings and put them back in. I did that at 4,500 miles. I just serviced the screens and put them back in. I took them back out at 9,000 miles. They didn't need to be changed. However, I had a set in the kit that I purchased, so I put in a whole new set of screens, a new cartridge filter, and a new set of oil, or a new dose of oil. But that really wasn't required, so I've got them in a Ziploc bag, put them on the shelf, so if I ever have to have a screen, I've got one, a spare one, set up to go. So the other service part of this is obviously the air filter. The air filter, I don't like paper filters in the desert. The air box on this is known to have dust penetrate it. I did not experience that at 4,500 miles, but at 4,500 miles, I stuck in the Unifilter complete kit. So the intake filters, the box filter, and then the actual Unifilter for the air. It went in easy. It was like 60 bucks. I think it was a good investment. Keeps the box clean. It's an additional seal around the box. The the air filter was, with those pre-filters, the air filter didn't have those leaves and bugs and stuff like that. It all got collected up front. So unifilter was good to put in there. But the front of the box did have a little bit of dust in it, so I just like to keep these things as sanitary as possible. You're gonna for a little bit of time to pull the tank off and everything. It's going to be well worth your time investment to service that air filter. So as far as servicing the bike, it's a lot of little screws. It's all plastic, which is kind of what I wanted. Previous ADV bikes that I've had a metal tank on them. Very concerned about, tip overs and stuff like that. If you could dent it and you're down $600 or $1,000 for a new tank, or, God forbid if you're out on a trail and you get a rock hit enough that tears open that metal tank and you're gonna have a rough time getting home. Where this is built more like a dirt bike, it's a plastic tank with plastic on top of it, plastic trim panels that are on top of it. It's no different to service the air filter on this than it is on any other modern adventure bike. So I've really enjoyed this bike. I've gone on several trips with it. I've loaded it down with camping gear. For traveling, I use the full setting for weight. So it's just as if I had a passenger and a full set of luggage. I use all those settings when I'm on a trip, and I haven't had an issue. Off-road, on-road, it still handles pretty well. And actually, I keep it on stiff settings all the time. It's only a couple of clicks here and there, and I'm up to travel setting. I only reduce it a little bit. I like a little stiffer suspension off-road, so I keep it pretty stiff for my riding style, and it seems to work really well. It is, in some conditions, I would prefer to reduce it down to soft, but I like to just kind of set the thing up, get it working well, and get used to that and not have to change things around too much. I know a lot of guys like to tweak. This suspension is very adjustable, so if you're used to a dirt bike, pretty much it's got all the same settings you would have on a 450 or a 250 or something like that. So, I mean, it could keep just about anybody happy. I'm a pretty good guy. I'm about 250, and this suspension has never bottomed out. I'm not doing jumps or anything like that, but I ride some pretty decent trails, and I've never had the forks bottom out. I've never had the rear suspension bottom out. So as far as fuel mileage goes, about 40 miles to the gallon, somewhere around there, depending on what you're doing. Off-road, it's probably somewhere around 34 to 36 on a trip, and I live in the West, so there's some pretty remote roads and speed limits. I won't say there's a suggestion, but even at pretty decent speeds, you're still getting around 42 miles to the gallon. I think I've seen as high as 46, but that was just strictly a highway endeavor. I got gassed up, got on the highway, and spent about 300 miles. And I saw about 46, but that was resetting the miles per gallon right there. In mixed travel, like I said, you're probably anywhere from 39 to 42. So that was, I'm pretty happy with that. You probably get, 230 miles out of a tank safely, and still have a little reserve. If you're around 220 or so, you probably need to be looking for a gas station or get your spare gas in there to make sure that you can get back to civilization. Seat-wise, ergonomics, I've kept the original seat, and I've put 1-inch bar risers on there. I like to stand up, not as much as some people, but I do like to stand up, and when I do, I like to be right over the top of the forks, where you got more control of the bike. You're weight forward, and I'm 6'1", and it allows me to to be able to stand just about in the just right position. So, but ergonomics wise, the pegs to seat area, the pegs laterally all are in good positions. The shift lever and brake lever, if you have, good size feet, if you're, I'm about a size 11, and they're in a good position for me. Some of these sport bike derived models have shorter distances and shorter clearance to shift levers and brake levers. These are you're capable of using these. I use my Garnier SG12s, and it works perfectly with that. I've had other bikes where I couldn't get a decent size off-road boot and be able to shift and brake. So, and they're pretty adjustable. The pegs even go up and down, I think like a half an inch or 3/4 of an inch. I don't know, but they do adjust. I think mine are on the highest adjustment. I haven't bothered to change them. They're pretty good where they are. Someday when I'm fooling around with it, doing a heavy maintenance, I may drop the pegs to the lower position. But as far as right now goes, I'm pretty good with that. Cosmetically, I think it's a good, nice looking bike. It's got a decent color scheme. If you want a pretty bike, and you wax your bike all the time, this is probably not the bike for you. Like I said, this is very dirt bike orientated, or has the build of a dirt bike. Everything is plastic, so I tend to ride on the very front of the seat, and your jacket's going to rub, or your clothing is going to rub on here, and it's not going to be as shiny new as it once was. It does get marked up. You get some trail pin striping on here. That's just it's an off-road bike, and that's the way it's going to be. If you want to wax and polish and shine and chrome the thing out, probably not the right bike for you. I will say the stock seat, I got a couple of little, not really punctures, but the material is like rubber vinyl kind of thing, so you've got a layer of cloth and then a coating over top of it. The coating got picked off. I mean, most people probably wouldn't notice it. My main concern is rip, and like I said, a couple little tiny spots on the seat got nicked. And I was concerned that, the thing would just rip open, but the nick is there. Don't know how it got there, but it hasn't gone any further than the original mark there. So very comfortable seat. The foam structure is really good. I think they put a decent seat on this. I've had some that have been cushy couch-like, and if that's not really good for off-road, and I've had bikes that have had super hard seats, and for long distances, that's not going to help you too much. Seems to strike a good balance between firmness and comfort, and it's very thin in the middle. For a very tall bike, it allows you to get your legs straight down, which is a really good thing. I don't know if I've mentioned this, I've had some previous update videos. The controls, the start stop, emergency off, where all your toggles are, they seem very cheesy looking, but I have not had an issue. They have not broken. They all work pretty well. The only nitpick that I would have is the directional toggle. Sometimes I think it's when you push for a right-hand turn, sometimes it doesn't, if you're with your glove, it doesn't turn on. So you may be you may have felt the click, and you're turning right into another lane, and I'm guessing at right, it might have been left, but one or the other. You may think that you've got the turn signal on and it's not on, so a good check of the actual idiot light is probably a good idea. So one of the additional things I need to do, and I don't know why, on my little maintenance trip, I had looked at it when I was doing it and ran out of time, but I will be doing it in the next month or so, is bleeding the brakes. I've got 9,000 miles on it. It's less than a year old, and the brake fluid is already coffee brown. So I really need to jump on that and get that transfused. So, I would have thought it would probably have lasted a year and a half or so. I guess maybe with the miles. I'm not really hard on the brakes, but whatever. It's not that big a deal. I can do that myself. As far as the forks go, I haven't had really any issue with the forks. I run shock socks on my dirt bike and on this bike. Been doing that for several years. Dusty environment out here, shocks don't last very long. So I do run those, but I haven't had any leak issues. The brakes, when I did the service, checked the brakes. I took the checklist in the owner's manual and went right through the service checklist on that. Brake pads were good. Pretty much everything was up to spec. I think we were in pretty good shape. It doesn't do a valve check until the 18,000 mile mark. I usually put on the large luggage plate in the back from whatever manufacturer. It looks good. I've always thought that this was too small. I mean, it's only about that big, the luggage rack on this, but I've had pretty good luck with, I run a Wolfman tail bag on the back, and that stays right on there. It's plenty of little places to tie off to. And when I'm running my long travel setup, I've got a 72 liter waterproof duffel that I put on there, and it's never moved. So those things are $100. I don't know if I need to spend that on it. Jumping into mods, I've had, I think the first ones I put on were the Tusk pannier racks. Excellent investment, very well made. They've got a Rotopax connection point I use for water. That worked out well. I've got a fuel exhaust on it. Personally, my own opinion, this was like under $400 to my door. Worth every penny. Sounds great, lightens it up, excellent quality. I wouldn't spend $1,100 or $900 for the premium brand exhaust. They wouldn't be worth it to me. I look at exhaust, maybe they're tuned and you get 2 or 3 more horsepower out of them, but they're a sheet metal wrapped around an oval with some fiberglass insulation or mineral insulation, a baffle in there, and then an end cap with a outlet on it. So, I don't know what I'm getting for another $600 or $700. The fuel exhaust, they've got excellent customer service. Came to my door from England to Southwest Arizona in 3 or 4 days. Boom, you got it, you're putting it on. Let's see, Wolfman Daytripper Saddlebags. These go back and forth between both bikes. These are a good investment. They're pricey, but they're a very good investment. Like I talked about, the Rox risers are excellent. Barkbuster handguards. I swapped these over from the last bike I had, and they hold up very well. I really like these. It was between these and Cycras. Cycras are a little bit more dirt bikey. These give you a little bit more wraparound wind coverage. I'm not a huge wind coverage guy, but cactus and sagebrush and desert trees and stuff like that all have thorns on them, so it's good to have a larger coverage, but a good wraparound grip. The other thing I've got are the Ride It Forever Chinese levers. There's the shorty levers. I like to, I only use 1 or 2 fingers depending on road or dirt. And these allow me to keep my 2 or 3 fingers on the bars and be able to do the levers. They're high quality, so ride it forever. This is the second set I had, second bike I've had them on. Those work pretty good. Outback Motor Tech skid plate, that thing's been excellent piece of armor there. And then the Outback Motor Tech upper guards, I think, are probably the most stout guards that are out there. Definitely get yourself a set of those if you got one of these bikes. I'm trying to think of what else is notable upgrades. I've got one of those helmet hooks on there, that's good. But bike-wise, you know, there's not much that needs to be added to these things. One of the fails I had is this, put a GPS mount that goes on behind your dash, and I got the Chinese brand one. It's an exact copy of whoever else makes it, and I don't tend to like that. I just wanted to try it out, and this was like a third of the cost, and I don't think the other one's designed any better. You could probably put one device on here. If you put two, it's bouncing so much you can't read it, so it's not worth it. I put a Bigfoot aluminum Bigfoot for the bottom of the kickstand. That helps out in normal sandy areas, but I also carry a 4x4 electrical box cover to put underneath there, because in deep wash sand this thing's going to tip right over. And I got the kickstand switch removal dongle. You know, I think that if you're riding in rough terrain, you've got an excellent chance of that thing failing and being stranded, and you won't be able to get your bike going again. So I have that installed. I've got everything zip tied up into the wiring harness, and that's really been helpful. As far as tires go, I really like the stock TKC 80 front. It's performs really well on and off road. I get about 6,000 miles out of it. I don't see changing. It's at a fair price. I think they're like 80, 90 bucks, something like that. The rear tire, this bike, you will go through a lot of rear tires. The current tire that I have on there, my last bike, I got 6,000 miles out of. I'll probably get about 4 out of it. It's a Shinko 805. It was an interim tire. I just wasn't sure where I wanted to go, and I'm still not sure where I want to go with my future tire. This one's just about done, like I said, and it's just about 4,000 miles. I do change mine prior to where most people would change them out. I don't like to, because I do ride off-road, I need some grip. So that 805 does really well. It's a nice trade-off for street performance and off-road performance. You're probably going to be able to use this in about 95% of the places that any other tire would operate. And as far as kicking out, sliding out, and all these things you hear on the internet, not sure where that's coming from. As far as I'm concerned, it's a pretty decent tire. Before this, I had the Motoz Tractionator Adventure tire, and not the GPS. This is the off-road version, and I had some cracking at the lugs. Actually, I had the lugs crack all the way around circumference-wise, and the sidewall, I had a flat, and the sidewall lost the bead, and I couldn't get it back on, and I could not, a couple of shops couldn't get it back on. They are tough to mount. I know everybody, there's one or two heroes every time I mention that tire that they can spoon them on like they're dirt bike tires, and God bless you. You must be an excellent tire installer, but that's not my life's endeavor, and I'm pretty good at it. I've put on quite a few tires in the last 44 years of riding, and it's not something that's fun. However, to get to the point is I have purchased another Motoz Tractionator Adventure tire just because of the performance. Found it on sale, and I'm going to have a shop put it on. I've got a remedy that I'm going to carry with me for flat tires. I'm basically going to carry a ratchet with me, and if I have to do a tire repair, I can get that bead back on, hopefully. Otherwise, it will be another flatbed ride home. But I'm hoping that I don't see the cracking that I did before. But anyway, like I said, you're going to spend a lot of money in rear tires. It's just a torque monster, horsepower monster. I know it's not the 1290, but it's 125 horsepower and like 80, 90 foot-pounds of torque. And it's fun to twist that handle. As far as the stock pegs go, those are fine with me. I don't like the aggressive dirt bike foot pegs with the pins that are in there. They tear up your boots. These are big enough for me. Maybe someday I'll put a larger set on there, but I'm good. I'm good with the shift lever, the stock shift lever and stock brake lever. Those are pretty decent. I may buy one of each of those to stick in my pack as spares. I'm trying to think of anything else. I mean, like I said, really it comes out of the factory just about ready to ride, except for, like I said, a little bit of protection. So the only other thing that I'm really looking forward to changing out are the mirrors. I have a hard time changing out something that basically works. I like the double take adventure mirrors. They're basically shaped the same as these, but they are on a ram mount and you can fold them in. If you have the unfortunate problem of hitting the terra firma, they're less likely to break. I think they've got a warranty against breakage, but these will shatter. The glass will shatter, and I'm always afraid of getting stabbed with these. It's probably not a reality, but the other thing with these is they have a tendency to loosen up, and you're going down the road and your mirrors are swinging around. You got to stop, get off, tighten them up, and I've had that happen a couple of times. I don't know why that happens, but maybe it's just my bike or something, but I've tightened them down pretty good and not had a lot of success with them running. Other than that, there's not really a whole lot to discuss. Like I said, I think it's an excellent bike if you're picking it up used. They no longer make this model, which is really unfortunate. It's as close as a bike as you can get to the 990, which is what I was really wanting, what I really wanted a few years ago. I think it's probably a little bit more road capable than the 990 and a little less off-road capable than the 990, but it fits what I need right now. If that's what your mindset is, if your mindset is to ride 90% off-road, and I'm not talking about mileage, I just mean your focus for the bike is 90% off-road and 10% on-road, and your mileage on road may be 80% road mileage and 20% dirt mileage, but if your focus is off-road, this is the bike for you. If you're a minimalist guy and you don't like a lot of electronics, you don't like a lot of interference in your riding experience, you tend to rely on your talents as a rider, this is the bike for you. If you're looking for something to do long distance touring and commute and things like that, and the experience is more of a pavement experience for you, you're going to want to look elsewhere. If you like electronics and gadgets and things like that, I would look elsewhere. But a good, reliable bike, I think the maintenance periods are far enough apart to make it affordable to ride. And like I said, it's been very reliable, very capable. Well, thanks for watching. I appreciate you watching. Please comment, subscribe, like, and share. Adios.